Olá, pessoal. De volta aqui para mais a segunda parte do nosso dia, né, aqui de hoje. Nossa segunda apresentação hoje nós vamos ter aqui, temos um convidado relevante aqui, que daqui a pouco eu já vou mudar aqui de idioma para a gente aproveitar um pouco. Espero que vocês aproveitem, é uma palestra muito importante para que vocês tenham perguntas, coloquem suas perguntas no chat, né? A parte de Q&A está aberta novamente, explorem bastante o conhecimento desse excelente palestrante que é o David. Bom, agora eu vou switch to English. So, David, good night. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. For me, once again, it's an honor to hear another lecture from you. It's important to mention that this year we complete 10 years, so having you here is a milestone for us. Be welcome.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
So first of all, I have a little introduction about David. So David has spent over 30 years helping organizations around the world increase their systems engineer proficiency, particularly in areas of model-based systems engineering and digital engineering. David was founder and president of Vitech, where he led development of innovation, industrial leading methods, and software to help organizations engineer next generation systems. An INCOSE fellow and expert systems engineer professional, David was the 2014-2015 president of INCOSE. So welcome, Dave. Thank you again, and good talk. Engineer a better tomorrow. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for the kind introduction and for having me here. Congratulations on 10 years of INCOSE Brazil. What a wonderful milestone to reach. So if you will stop sharing, I will start to share my screen. There we go.
Okay.
Hopefully you can confirm that.
Yes, it's good.
Very good. So the future comes quickly. Let's go ahead and get started. So we have a future characterized by a changing context, greater customer demands, new technologies, ever-increasing connectivity. As those technologies advance and as complexity grows, if we rely upon yesterday's approaches alone, we will fall short of what we require to address the problems of 2025, 2035, and beyond. So if we're to succeed in addressing the challenges of today and tomorrow, how must we evolve our practices as systems engineers, as systems thinkers, as systems professionals? INCOSE's SE Vision 2035 seeks to inspire and guide the strategic direction of the systems engineering community as we strive to engineer a better tomorrow. Hold on tight, the future's coming quickly, so we will move fast. For me, anytime that I seek to understand the future, I like to begin by understanding the present and how we got here. For systems engineers, you can argue that systems engineering has been around for thousands of years, but the so-called golden age of systems engineering would truly be the 1950s or 1960s. The days when we started to put man on the moon, when we started to put spacecraft into orbit, regrettably, as we put missiles into silos and ever more advanced tanks on the battlefield. But if we go back to this golden age, the good old days of systems engineering, and look at the characteristics, what do we see? We see primarily electromechanical technologies. We see new, fresh design. We see standalone systems, long-lived systems, primarily aerospace and defense systems, where the technology and the needs were extremely stable. I'm willing to bet that those words do not describe your challenges, the challenges you face today. Instead, we see things such as this. The T-7A trainer from Saab, a new training fighter aircraft that was engineered and produced in just 36 months. We see connected, autonomous, shared, electrified vehicles. We see Boston Dynamics Robotics dancing to "Do You Love Me?" We see next generation medical devices. The pace of change is unrelenting. It brings us complexity in many forms. The challenges don't define us. It's how we react to those challenges, to this new era of new generation systems that define us. If we think about the challenges that we face in today's world, I won't speak to Systems Engineering 2035. I'll actually go back in time to Systems Engineering 2025, Vision 2025, which was published 10 years ago as INCOSE Brazil was being founded. In that document, there was a classic chart that illustrated challenges that we face. 6 primary challenges. I show 5 of them here. These challenges are still representative. Anywhere in the world that people understand systems engineering, sadly, they will resonate with these challenges. The complexity of the problems that we're trying to solve is growing faster than we know how to deal with it. As much as we want to believe that most design and architecture is intentional, in fact, it's accidental. It more often emerges as we assemble pieces together than by thoughtful design. The result is systems that are brittle, they break often, they're hard to operate, they're very expensive, they're difficult to test. The opposite of the characteristics we seek. If you track a system through its development lifecycle, from conceptual design to detailed design, to manufacturing, to fielding, to upgrade, to retirement, we know that multiple teams are involved in that journey. We also know that at every team exchange, every lifecycle boundary, we lose knowledge and investment. Not a very effective way to engineer complex systems. The 4th challenge makes it even worse. We don't learn effectively from one generation of a system to the next. We tend to repeat the same learning opportunities. And as much as systems engineers and program managers should be in it for the same thing, which is meeting the business need through the system of interest, we realize that as engineers focus on technical figures of merit and program managers focus on cost and schedule, those dimensions are poorly coupled. The result is that we have exceeded the capabilities of traditional systems engineering and in many ways engineering. So those good old days, the systems engineering that we're founded on, may provide a wonderful foundation, but what got us to this point in time is starting to break down in the face of today's challenges. It will not get us to today and to tomorrow. Why is that? The fundamental culprit is an explosion in complexities, plural, and expectations. If you talk to futurists, they will agree that we are going through several major transformations and revolutions. There is sustainability. We are far more aware of the impact and the interrelationship that we have with the world around us. And that if we do not take care of the planet, it will not be there for us. We recognize that we as a species, we as life on Earth are truly interdependent. There is the digital transformation that is providing unprecedented computing power and data storage. Then we have complexity growth, smart systems, all of these aspects. But what we see through these 6 transformations that futurists are calling out, but also the way that we operate in engineering, we see that we're dealing with unprecedented system scale, bigger problems than ever, harder problems than ever. Mission complexity continues to grow, that first challenge. Technology complexity. The technologies that we use today are far more than electromechanical. But in using those very powerful technologies, we introduce complexity into our systems themselves. Project team complexity. You can no longer gather your team in one room if you're building a major system. The reality is they're spread across your country. They're spread across geographic boundaries, across corporate boundaries with truly global supply chains. Dynamic complexity, the problem changes as we try to solve it. If you are Apple and you're developing the iPhone 15, you respond when Samsung releases their latest product. And cycle time, we're being asked to do more faster. Part of this grander challenge that we're facing, recognizing the sustainable world and our interdependence, we're trying to face challenges such as the UN SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals for the planet. Most systems engineering through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s was focused on delivering products. The systems world we live in today needs to address poverty, clean water and sanitation, reduced inequities, life below water, life on land, and so many more aspects. We must engineer at the societal level if we are to be sustainable. If we look to humans, we have to embrace enhanced expectations of industry and society. Most of us have heard of Industry 4.0, the transformation from mechanization to mass production at the turn of the last century, to computer and automation of the 80s and 90s, now to cyber physical systems. And all of those considerations, augmented reality, big data, simulation, etc. But what about society? What about the human? That's Society 5.0, a human-centered society that balances economic advancement with the resolution of societal problems by a system that highly integrates cyberspace and physical space. As it says, how do we leverage technology, data, concepts behind Industry 4.0 for a better human life? If those are a little high and out of your reach, you don't maybe work at the societal level. What about at the system level, at the product level? Our customers are more demanding than ever. There are 10 classic expectations. While we are working bigger problems, we still want things to be simple. Give me the capability that I need as a user, but I'd like you to hide that complexity. I need it to be as easy to use as my smartphone. It needs to be failure tolerant. We need to use human-centric design and user experience. I want it timely. I want it when I want it, quickly delivering new capability into service. I'm not willing to wait 2 years. Most of us aren't even willing to wait 12 months. It has to be safe. We have to ensure the human, the property, and the environmental safety, even as situations get complex. We have to be secure, stable, and predictable operation. Is this going to work the way I expect it to work across a wide set of use cases, across a wide set of environments, in the urban center, in the rurals of backcountry? Is it smart? Can I bring technology together to assist the human operator and deliver more capability? We've talked about sustainable. Is it maintainable? Easy to maintain over life? Can it scale? Can it scale effectively from small deployments to large without breaking the fundamental architecture? And by the way, please give me all 9 of those characteristics and make it affordable. Address the total cost of ownership. Regardless of what level that you're working at, the combination of bigger problem, grander expectations, mission complexity, technology complexity, dynamic complexity, our challenge is getting bigger. So how do we respond? That's what Systems Engineering Vision 2035 seeks to do. It seeks to inspire and guide the strategic direction of systems engineering over these next 12 years. In doing so, it seeks to address the future systems engineering challenges, broaden the base of application. No longer is it just aerospace and defense. It's transportation, it's medical technology. But can we also work at the enterprise, the societal levels? Can we work across technologies? Can we align practices across application domains and around the world? Can we promote systems engineering research, education, and practice to truly benefit at a societal level? So how do we respond to the challenge? Well, first, we can start by leveraging 21st century technologies to solve 21st century problems. Apollo put a man on the moon in 1969. SpaceX seeks to do it in the not too distant future. There's not a whole lot of commonality between the current SpaceX craft and the Apollo lunar lander. Completely different technologies. We don't have to engineer tomorrow's solutions with yesterday's technology. It begins with digitization, advances in computer power and storage, big data and analytics, artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality. But it doesn't stop there. Additive manufacturing allows us to produce things in ways that we've never done so before. How do we engineer to truly leverage that for a production, sustainable, maintainable footprint? And biotechnology. And those are just 3 technological advances. The key is we need to embrace these technological revolutions if we are to deliver the solutions that we demand at the human and societal levels. Now, if you're involved in systems engineering, it's impossible not to talk about model-based and digital as we seek to connect the engineering lifecycle. We're talking about a model-centric approach to engineering with high reuse of models. Perhaps the old way that we had was the pencil and drafting and documents and silos of information, disconnected silos for each of the disciplines involved through the life cycle. Hence the challenge of losing information at every life cycle phase as we transition from team to team. Can't we do better leveraging the digital revolution? And the answer is obviously yes. Can we connect data through life with so-called authoritative sources of truth? Can we leverage the power of modeling and simulation, VR, AR, so that we can verify and validate early in design to more quickly field the capability that our customers want? The answer is absolutely yes, but be careful. Model-based and digital are tools for us. We cannot allow them to become the focus of our engineering. They must become the enablers to our engineering. As much as I am a true believer in model-based and digital, I do worry that at times we as engineers become too consumed with our tools and we forget the human, the business, the societal problems that we're seeking to address. Now, we so often talk about model-based and digital, but there's another side of that coin. We have to connect concept and operations. We need to connect the human and the machine in design and in operation. We have to connect the model and the data in design, in operation, in maintenance, through life. When we talk about the human and the machine interaction, in design and in maintenance, we're talking about the power of virtual reality and augmented reality. Can I put on my HoloLens and look at a part on a real system and immediately see the provenance, the history of this part, all of the data surrounding it, operational data and back through design. Perhaps I can get insight into conducting preventive maintenance. This radically changes the way that we deploy and maintain systems. But then what about the human in the system? Can we use human-centered design for users to improve the man-machine interface and for stakeholders? We absolutely can. How about data? The role of data in design. Can we better use simulated, observed, and experimental data to verify and validate designs early? Eliminate those errors as early in the life cycle as possible to increase our velocity, reduce our cycle time. Can we use that data from the field, to better quantify the performance and risk as we deal with non-deterministic systems? For those who live and understand the Cynefin framework, we're working in the complicated but also the complex space. In the complex space, you cannot project linear cause and effect. So can we use that simulated, experimental, and observed data to better understand digitally before we build? Can we connect the theoretical observations with real world observations and see when we start to get a divergence to better monitor operation and health? The moment you talk about data, you start to get into assistance for the engineer, assistance for the operator, AI and machine learning. There are two dimensions here. There's artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence for SC. Those are tools augmented with data-driven and context-aware algorithms that can suggest alternatives for me, the engineer. They can truly partner with us. They can advance generative design. The human still provides the creativity and the design intent, but from there, the algorithms, the AI, and the machine learning takes over. But by the way, we also have to talk about systems engineering for AI. If we're going to put AI and machine learning into our systems, how do we truly verify and certify systems that are continuously evolving? Because as that algorithm changes performance, changes behaviors, is the system now truly what it was 2 days ago? The answer is not really. We have to have the concept of trusted systems. We have to have the concept of explainability so that we can trust those systems. All of this is where we tend to leverage technology for systems of the future. If you go back to INCOSE Systems Engineering Vision 2025, A World in Motion, and ask yourself, where did we make the greatest progress towards that vision? It was in the areas of model-based and digital and technology. For many cases, it's because we, the engineer, are most comfortable with those tools. So we've made great progress there. Still progress to be made in Vision 2035, but we've got a good foundation. Where have we made less progress? Well, one place is quantifying the underpinning principles, the principles that are the foundation for systems engineering. Years ago, I was asked, is systems engineering an art or a science? And I laughed, because as much as we want systems engineering to be a mature discipline, the reality is in many ways, it is still a trade. Yes, we can study the principles, we can study handbooks, but you learn systems engineering by doing. And that is a characterization of a trade or a craft. Now, there are tremendous bodies of knowledge out there. There is game theory, decision theory, complexity theory, control theory. When we get into the human and the machine, there's psychology, there's organizational theory. Those are all existing theoretical bases. How do we weave them together to underpin our practices as systems engineers and advance ourselves from art, craft, and trade to science and discipline? The reality is that's a challenge for researchers. We can't all get our PhDs in each of these fields. If we did, we wouldn't have any time to engineer systems. So we need the researchers and the academics to help weave these ideas together and underpin our processes, methods, and tools, advancing them in the process. Now, we also have systems engineering principles, heuristic-based, that will help advance us moving forward. We have to solidify that foundation. Otherwise, we are building on a foundation of sand. There's our processes, methods, and tools, model-based, digital. There's our foundational theory, our principles, and other ideas. But there's also the practitioner. And we ourselves recognize or must recognize that we must transition, both as systems engineers, the field of systems engineering, and the way we engineer systems. First off, we need to truly embrace transdisciplinarity. We need to be careful that we don't make systems engineering its own silo. On the left, you see the representation of disciplinary and multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, the intersection between them. Transdisciplinary is the connective tissue that binds them all together. Systems engineers cannot go around by staring at their own shoes. We must stare at everyone else's shoes and help to connect their ideas, their questions, their perspectives. We must embrace that. We must advance our knowledge and skills, moving from mechanistic thinking of very simple interactions to more biologic and life sciences mentality, given that the electronics and the software that weaves through our systems has complexity that is analogous to biological life. So we need to change our mindset. We need to build the systems engineering workforce of the future, focused on competencies and formal education programs, lifetime learning that balances the systems, practices, and profession with the domain knowledge that's applicable for, are we working in aerospace or medical or automotive? We have to have career paths for us to progress. But that's us as systems practitioners. What about those that we interact with to engineer systems? We need to reawaken the systems mindset in everyone. I am convinced that we are born with this. And as children, we seek out the interconnections in the world around us. But then the educational system trains us to be disciplinary. It trains us to be specialists in narrow areas, which is wonderful because that's how we get to the advances that we have. But can we do that and still maintain an appreciation for the interconnection? If we are to advance at a societal level, we need the discipline experts complemented with the transdisciplinarity. We need to reawaken the system awareness and the systems mindset in everyone while we as systems engineers advance our profession. That means that we have to take a competency-based perspective. We must see the big picture. Yes, it is about fundamental tools that got us here. Tools such as systems thinking, the life cycles, systems modeling and analysis more than ever in model-based, the technical competencies, requirements, architecting, integration, V&V. But it's also about professional competencies. And this is a lot of that transdisciplinarity as we serve as the technical connective tissue of the project team. We have to embrace all of these aspects and truly see the big picture ourselves. So what do? If you resonate with this, if you recognize that what got us here will not get us there, now what? So what? We must realize the vision, and we must realize the vision together. Vision 2035 is bigger than one person, one organization, one profession, one country. It requires that industry, government, academia, and nonprofits, in fact, come together. We will not advance alone. We need to synergize the investments, the resources, and the learning across domains while recognizing that each of us, our domains and our organizations, have unique needs. Therefore, it's a call to action to plot our collective path forward, but also your path forward as an organization and as an individual. So if we look at that, as we define the path forward, we need to take into account that global context, that changed context. We're not in the 1960s anymore. We need to take into account what are called in English the pestle factors, the political, the economic, so forth. We need to recognize that there is an as-is world today and a to-be world tomorrow. And the transformation between them is organizational change on a grand scale. So we can talk about technological innovation, but we also have to talk about managing the culture change. It is about doing things differently, and that's a human problem, not a technology problem. We have to evolve the knowledge base to know how to deal with the complex problems of tomorrow. We need to run pilots. We need to make our teams feel safe. And then we need to mature and transform. It is either maturation of the systems engineering profession or transformation to a discipline, depending upon your perspective. It is absolutely a transformation of the greater engineering life cycle as transdisciplinary systems engineers and subject matter experts, domain engineers, all work together to deliver the engineering of systems in an interconnected, sustainable world. The life cycle must transform. It's new awareness of the systems world that we live in. We live in the age of complexity. We live in the age of systems. And as I said before, it's organizational change on a grand scale. That is energizing for many. It is terrifying for some. Therefore, we must manage that culture change. One of the tools to do so is establishing relevant roadmaps. This is a roadmap from Vision 2035. And as you see, it has broken a transformation with goals in 2025 and 2030 and 2035 along 5 fundamental areas. The application of systems engineering, continuing to grow where systems engineering concepts are applied and accepted as standard practice. The practices of systems engineering, the tools and environment, heavily leveraging digital technologies. Research, establishing that underpinning platform of theory that we need. And competencies, changing the way that we perform as individuals. But you'll recognize, much in the way that our systems are interconnected, so too is this roadmap. We cannot advance only in the application domain without also advancing our research, also advancing our practices. It's all interconnected. Study this as systems practitioners. Understand the trajectory that we forecast as a discipline, but it's more than that. It's not relevant roadmap singular, it's relevant roadmaps plural. We can plot a roadmap for the discipline, but what is the roadmap for your enterprise? What is the roadmap for you? Where do you want to be in 2025? What are your new skills, knowledges, abilities, processes, methods, tools, areas of application? How does that change 5 years later to 2030? How does it change again in 2035? We need to establish these roadmaps, not that they are true, because they are not, but they are a North Star that guides our journey forward, and we can tack along that line to make progress. In doing so, we must tailor our roadmap and tailor our practice to the problem at hand. Good systems engineering is always fit for practice. If quality is truly essential, if your system has human safety as a critical component, you must engineer one way. If it's actually all about innovation and cycle time, but you can afford the occasional system outage, you'll engineer a different way. And so there's no one size fits all, which is why there's no one roadmap fits all. Understand your fundamental business need. Understand where you reside on this radar plot and plot your path forward accordingly. Part of that is, again, embracing new technologies and knowing where you need to be for digital thread, digital twin, digital engineering. Note that where you need to be may not be where you want to be. Many engineers are fundamentally technologists, and we want to live at the bleeding edge, the leading edge of technology. But if that's not appropriate for your system of interest, your business need, moving too far forward in DX will actually impede you, cause you problems rather than enable you. Be sure that your tools serve you, not you serve the tools. Parallel to DX is the concept of agile and the pace of change. Can you do so and remain compliant with your human needs, your regulatory needs? Again, where you live on a traditionally planned or agile or responsive mentality has to be fit for purpose. I can call out the dimensions for you to think about in your roadmap. You must respond with what's right for your organization, your problem. In the process, you will transform not only your systems engineering ecosystem of the practices, the education and training that underpin the human, the tools and environment that allow us to practice. You'll change not only that for systems engineering, but also for the engineering of systems. Because again, we are now looking at a different way of executing connected engineering across the life cycle, connecting the transdisciplinary with the disciplinary. In doing so, we have to embrace the innovation system, the base of effective practices, empowering change agents to help us make that cultural change, introduce new process methods and tools, innovate, learn, feedback, solidify the practice, find synergies. So we have an innovation system that helps us transform our practices. In doing so, we can create a better tomorrow along those 5 areas called out in the roadmap for 2035. In application, we can go to the grand level, addressing major societal challenges. We can work across an increasing number of domains. In the practices, we can better respond to uncertainty and complexity. We can better respond to dynamic change. We can leverage model-based and digital, making those a standard part of our practice. We can better realize increasingly complex systems. We can leverage reuse and product line concepts to reduce cycle time, to better learn from generation to generation of system. That problem 4 that I called out for you in Vision 2035, in 2025. In our tools and environments, we can enable seamless, trusted collaboration as part of the digital ecosystem. That addresses that problem number 3, losing knowledge and investment through life. We can move from craft and trade to discipline and science, building upon the theoretical foundations of others and then expanding the systems foundation. And as practitioners, we can move to a competency-based mentality, continuing to grow ourselves as we raise the system awareness of others, working in partnership to address this systems world. The bottom line is Vision 2035 lays out ideas of how we can respond to 21st century needs with 21st century systems engineering. But it must be you that chooses your roadmap and your organizational roadmap. We can talk about advancing the discipline to be knowledge-based and value-centric. You must advance it to be fit for purpose for your collaborative engineering of systems. Regardless of what you do, remember it's always about harmony and balance. It is about the heritage that got us here. We should not forget and reject those ideas. Those are our foundation. But we must be open to change if we're to address the problems of today and tomorrow. It is about architecture that enables innovation and resilience. It's about analytics and modeling and data that gives us rigor, evolution, efficiency, and effectiveness. It is about innovation and analysis. It's about the practice of systems engineering, the practitioner, the systems engineer, and the opportunity to practice at product, enterprise, and societal levels. It's about systems and systems thinking, and it's about systems engineering and rigor. Whatever you do, please always begin with the end in mind. The purpose of systems engineering is not process. It's neither document nor model. The purpose of systems engineering is not even the system of interest. The purpose of systems engineering is delivering the required value to the customers and the stakeholders, be it at a human or societal level. As we solve bigger and bigger problems, the world will continue to throw us more daunting challenges. We dream bigger dreams. That's what we do as humans. We will continue to innovate, to advance, to educate, bringing a systems perspective and fit for purpose systems approaches to the systems challenges ahead. Through these approaches, continue to dream bigger dreams, tackle the wicked problems, and explore new horizons. I wish you nothing but the best as you continue your journey in 2022 to 2023 to 2025 to 2030, and eventually achieve your systems engineering vision 2035. And with that, let's move to questions if we have any.
So, David, thank you very, very much. Amazing, inspiring presentation. So looking at the possibilities, motivating.
Motivating and potentially scary. Hopefully we can embrace those two tensions and take more motivating than scary.
Yeah. In the vision that you shared with us today, you had the dimension of the challenge of now and in the future. I have a question, so you can share the answer with us. It's related to some points you mentioned about the mindset. One, the view of complexity and its challenge, emerging properties and concepts and evaluation of topics such as system of systems are becoming essential to understand this future. Not only technology, but how organizations or companies should need to structure themselves for these challenges, in your opinion, considering the expected professional skills and the feeling need a big leap, so a big step, but what would be a first step that you would like to leave us with a recommendation among several tips that you gave to us? Just a brief overview. So the future and culture, how to build the bridge to connect the dots.
Right. So it's a very good question. And if I'm to give you one idea on that culture to connect the dots, it is actually a human psychological, I'll call it a trick, but it is not a trick. It is simply valuing other people. I said that to solve problems in the systems age is not the problem of the systems engineer. It is the problem of all of us. Systems engineers are not smarter than other people. We see the world differently. And it takes the way we see the world, breadth, working together with disciplined engineers, depth, to solve these problems. So how do we do that? We don't do that the way engineers would typically do that and say, I have something completely new for you, listen to me. Instead, what we need to do is we need to tell people, actually, you've already been doing part of this. You're already part of the systems tribe. Let me call out ways that you've been doing it and then help you take it to that next level. It's awakening that or reawakening that system awareness in all of us because they've been considering systems. They just haven't been doing it on the grand scale that we have. So if I was to give you one cultural step, it's actually to close that perceived gap. Because if people already feel that they've been doing part of it, then it is evolutionary to take the next step. And we need all of the disciplines to join us to take that next systems awareness step.
Sounds great. So I have a question here. So, hi, David. In your slides, sometimes images of connected tools or technology appeared having similarity with a graph theory. You mentioned AIs in the presentation. Believes that it can be the way to deal with very large graphs and making the search very fast for information as well as its treatment.
So graph theory is absolutely essential in what we're talking about moving forward. That is one of the theories that we know underpins these ideas of systems, because graph theory allows us to deal with the concept of interconnection. One of the fundamental differences between systems and everybody else is other people are focused on the nodes, we're focused on the interconnects. So you are exactly correct. Graph theory must underpin what we're doing going forward, and it can pair with AI to do these things. In fact, if you've started to track where not systems engineering tools, but ontologically based tools that help connect the engineering cycle, those tools tend to reside not on relational databases or object-oriented databases. They tend to reside on graph databases for exactly the reason that you called out.
Okay. So I think there's another question here. So, Thiago, I feel like system engineer is culture of how to do engineering to complex systems. However, a culture demands generation to change. How to accelerate the applications of this new culture of systems engineering in Brazil?
It's a good question, and it goes back to helping people recognize that they already had this mindset, and not necessarily that education trained them out of it, but that they have spent their careers getting very, very deep in a particular knowledge area. And so what we have to do is reawaken that other part of the mind. That's the first thing that we need to do. Remind the individual that they already have this within it. That closes the change gap. The other thing we have to do then is inspire movement forward. And we want to say that as humans, we change because we see a better tomorrow. Yes, we do, but we actually more often change because of pain that we feel. If you're talking about an organization, what you need to do is you need to look for how you did not deliver against some goal, or how you had to struggle to deliver against a goal, and talk about how one aspect of a systems approach or mentality could help you solve that. If you want to talk about it societally, actually, I don't think we need to invent issues. All we need to do is look at our interrelationship with the world around us. The challenge I will tell you there is, in doing so, we also need to help people understand through life thinking. Let me talk about something from the US for a moment. In the US, we are absolutely obsessed with moving from gasoline-powered vehicles to electric vehicles. Fine, I understand that. But nobody is talking about the through life issues with batteries, with mining batteries, with recycling batteries. We repeat the same errors over and over again. So as we're helping people with this culture change to understand interconnected, I think they understand we're interconnected with the world around us, but let's also help them remember through life concerns by kindly reminding them, by the way, we made this error before. We don't want to make a similar error now. What are perhaps some unintended consequences of mining a lot of lithium, of not planning for retirement and recycling, not fill in the blank for your problem of interest?
So, well, thank you. So fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, David.